is, then so be it. But I can't fix a situation. I can't fix something from happening if the people that are mad at me up and block me and don't speak to me for years. There's nothing I can do about that. So, this whole league of villains, this whole league of Avengers or whatever, these people that have come forward to expose me about all these situations, the biggest misstep in my mind is how did they forget like the other half dozen people, 7, 8, 9, 10 people that were involved in those situations? That's my number one question, because it's like, the truth is what the truth is. Like, I can understand having your own perspective and feeling a certain way about it, but at the end of the day, when the facts are presented on the table, you know, you have to own up and accept responsibility. So I'm going to speak on a few different topics. And oh my goodness, it's already like washing over me, and I'm so ready to be done with this and be done with this section, this chapter of my life. I'm not trying to like minimalize it or make it seem like it's less than what it actually is or anything like that. No, I'm not. These are serious situations. And these are all situations that I was under the impression had been taken care of and resolved. But again, if you feel a certain way about somebody, you can't just not speak to them and expect any sort of conclusion to come from that. So I'm going to talk on a bunch of different situations. I apologize in advance. I'm super duper sick right now, and you might hear some nastiness, so I apologize in advance. But I did ask a couple people to perhaps speak if they felt comfortable enough about it regarding a few situations, so we'll see about that here in a few. But the first situation that I want to address is Jamie. Jamie is one of my really good friends. We've had our ups and our downs, but all of this stuff that is going on with Jamie on Twitter right now involving her Discord and whoever she may be speaking to, this isn't me like trying to throw Jamie under the bus or anything, but it's just something that I wasn't aware of. It's something that I can't speak on. You know, I hate when people try and speak authoritatively about things that they're ignorant to, so I'm not going to attempt to do that right now. I don't know the details of the situation. I plan on talking to Jamie later about it, and I'm going to handle it accordingly there. So I don't know the extent of those situations, so I can't speak on that. The next situation that I want to talk about is Nathan. And I'm incredibly upset and disappointed and really angered by this situation with Nathan, primarily because Nathan did all of these things and then promptly deleted his social media immediately. So that absolves him of all responsibility of this issue. So now this witch hunt has turned to us, and we're now somehow responsible for the actions that this person did simply because they can't talk to that person. So I'm very upset and angry with Nathan on a lot of different levels. And I feel a lot of remorse about a lot of things in that situation with Nathan. But as my message said, and as Jay's message said, originally, when these things happened with Nathan, there was one incident that we knew of. Nathan was 18 years old. And as his friend, I admittedly gave him the benefit of the doubt. You know, when you're friends with someone, you're really good friends with someone, and they have all these accusations thrown against them and this and that and whatever, you know, I'm not going to sit there and just jump on board with them and do X, Y, and Z. Now, in hindsight, it's very easy to sit there and say what I should have done. Or it's very easy to sit there and point at someone and say, you should have done this. You know, but in the moment, it's very different. And in that moment, I thought that, you know, all of us collectively, and again, that's the entire group that you guys have come to know, we all pulled Nathan aside, just like Jay said in his tweet, and we fucked that nigga up. We destroyed him. I told that dude, there are 7 billion fucking people on this planet. Stop fucking around with these underage girls. You don't need to do that. Find somebody in your age group. Find somebody that you can be in a relationship with that doesn't cause all this trouble. Do that. So in hindsight, that may not have been the right thing to do. Us forgiving and forgetting in that one situation, whatever you want to call it, that may have not been the right thing to do. And I accept full responsibility for that. There are a lot of people on Twitter saying, you knew this and you knew that. If you knew that, why don't you accept responsibility? In my message, I literally said, I accept full responsibility for not doing more in that time. I do. Now, the second incident that occurred, again, just like in Jay's tweet, the follow-up one that he made, he said we pulled him aside. We did. We yanked that dude to the side, and it was even worse that time. PK was screaming, yelling at him. We were fucking livid. And Nathan was like, hold on, let me show you. And he pulled up this screen share and showed us that this entire situation was basically like crafted to get at Nathan again. That was the whole idea behind it. They wanted to create this situation and trap Nathan and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in that sense, I think a lot of us probably went with the idea that this isn't entirely Nathan's fault. So it's not something that we can hold against him. But as I said before, that's not something that we should have done. We should have stepped up and taken more responsibility for that. My mouth is super dry. I'm super sick. That's something that we should have stepped up and taken responsibility for. But in that same conversation, and again, everyone that was there can attest to this, I told Nathan flat out, I said, look, if this happens again, regardless of whether you are at fault or not, that's it, dog. I'm 1,000,000,000% done with you. I cannot speak to you. I can't associate with you. No. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. You were young. You were a kid. You made stupid decisions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whatever. But here and now, end it. No more. And after that conversation, nothing happened with Nathan for years, like 2 or 3 years. As he was a part of Primetime and he moved out to Arizona, I let him stay in my house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is what I meant in my tweet when I said that we had no idea that this was going on. I'm talking about after the first 2 initial situations. To all of us, Nathan had turned over a new leaf. He was telling us that he had girlfriends. He was driving up to Phoenix to go see some chick or something or other. We were under the impression that Nathan had fucked up, learned from his mistake, and had moved on. Well, come to find out, he hasn't. And my initial response when I first found out is I messaged Nathan right away. And I told him, I said, Nathan, I don't know what's going on, dude, but I'm seeing all this stuff on Twitter. And the last time you and I spoke about this, I told you what would happen. And I wish you the best of luck. I hope that you get whatever help you need, if that's the route you choose to take. But you just aren't a person that I can associate with anymore. Not even because of like any sort of business reasons or this or that. Just as a human being, you're a shit fucking human being, dog. He told some chick that he would kill her and her family if she told anybody about their conversations. And how anyone could sit and think that we would be okay with any of that is beyond me. That's the most outlandish, ridiculous. It's just, Nathan's just a lazy, stupid sack of shit. And I am so angry that all this backlash is something that we have to deal with now because he just up and deletes his social media account and disappears. So again, I apologize for not stepping forward and doing more then and there in those times. That is something that I should have done. That is my mistake, and I've learned from that. Nathan doesn't learn from his mistakes. He's just a constant fuck up 24/7 all the time. And I hope that whatever comes his way, he gets and he deserves each and every single minute of it. Fuck that dude. Period. The situation with Mo is a very different situation. And it's a very back and forth, all over the place situation. Because Mo essentially functioned as a human being that felt a certain way about me for years and never once said anything. Ever at all. So, and I'm gonna talk about all these situations and whatnot, but I can't understand how, if you tell somebody or if you tell your friend group in whatever situation is going on, Yes, I'm okay with the way this has ended. But that isn't the truth. That isn't the truth. That isn't the reality of what the actual situation is. You aren't okay with the situation. But you sit and you harbor over that for years and years and years, and you let all this animosity build up to a point that a comment about a sleep lock sends you over the edge. That's how all this began, by the way. If you guys remember, I don't know when it was, probably like a month or two ago on primetime, we were swapping from Mario Kart to Apex Legends. And I played the trailer that I have played multiple times, promoting, stuff that's coming up on Twitch. You guys know the trailer I'm talking about with Tomb Raider and this and that, yada, yada, yada. And the last project on that list was the Platinum with Diego and Nexus. And somebody in the chat asked if, it was the day after Nexus did his yellow sleep lock, for reference. Somebody in the chat asked if Platinum was going to be a sleep lock. And I think that they were joking, but they said that they were asking about that because Nexus had just done his sleep lock the day before. And I said, no, it's not going to be a sleep lock. Platinum's a long-ass fucking game. And I also added in, same thing that I've said for years and years and years, that I don't like sleep locks. I think the idea of a sleep lock is just stupid. How is the gimmick, like one of your rules, to not fall asleep? What? And that's just my opinion on the lock type. I even went into detail and gave the history of it, how Maryland and Cephazon were the first ones to do it. Well, on Fire Red, and they put their cartridges in the Game Boy Color because Maryland doesn't emulate games. So it wasn't like my comments were tailored for anyone specifically. I was just speaking on a lock type in general. But apparently, that was more than enough to send Mo over the edge. Now, I think it is very convenient. One of the reasons that it took me so long to go live for my initial tweet is because I had to grab screenshots and this and that, and yada, yada, yada. But I think it's very convenient that at the time when this happens and this goes down, as you can see in the screenshot, Game Boy Luke just so happens to be sitting in my chat. Now, I'm not going to sit here and accuse Luke and say, oh my goodness, this screenshot was taken day of, by the way. It's in a Discord chat. That's something that Nexus, Twit, Jay, it was in the Penta Op chat, can all attest to. I think it's very convenient that this person, Luke, who very clearly feels a certain way about me, is sitting here in my stream. Why, if you feel this way about me, and you're so upset and so angry about X, Y, and Z, why are you in my stream? Why are you watching my content? So that's an assumption. I'm not accusing Luke of anything. It's just very convenient that the moment that Mo drops this information in the chat, tells me off with the power of Zeus, Luke just so happens to be sitting here in the chat. It is what it is. So the message that Mo sent me that day, is this. He said, I'm done working on this project and done working with you. You treated so many people I've loved like absolute shit. You ruined my friendship with Callum and Shelby and manipulated me to hate them when I was on the edge of forgiving him. In all caps, Callum was my best friend and made it seem like this mistake was friendship ending. You told me Luke hated us consecutive times and ruined his life by putting him through so much anxiety and isolating him to be on his own and separated us from having some of the greatest times. And I know deep down, no matter how shit Diamond was, you ruined my relationship with her. And today, you just publicly threw shade on sleep locks that everyone I know and love has done. They do amazing things, and then after that decided, yeah, my yellow playthrough cooking. He's referring to a comment that I made regarding yellow because Nexus had just done yellow the day before. I'm going to turn these notifications off. Nexus had just done yellow I don't have notifications on this page. He had just done yellow the day before, so we were talking about that. And in the Twitch clip, I literally said, like, I don't want to get into this because I wasn't trying to put forth the interpretation. I wasn't trying to put forth the idea, or I didn't want it to be interpreted that I was trying to piggyback on Nexus's yellow or anything like that. I announced my yellow project back in December with our last update video. So it's not like I was trying to shit on Nexus's yellow project or I was trying to do any of this stuff. I mentioned yellow because Nexus did yellow. And then he says, and the one time I was ever difficult, you made me cry. Real tears by not understanding any of my feelings because I wanted to record on a specific day, and you made it seem like me not complying was all on me and I was whack for being the way I was. And anytime things don't go your way, ZZZ. So yeah, drop a ZZZ on this one, Nappy. I don't give a fuck. Go blow up, make your money, do whatever the fuck you want to do, dog. God bless you on to the success. Keep it going because it'll be a lonely road. I'm done. Goodbye. So, hold on. So instantly, my reaction is like, what? What the fuck is going on? Because Mo had never mentioned any of this to me. Ever. Not once did he ever step to me as a man and say, hey, I have this issue with you. I have this problem. Can we figure out a way to fix it? Is there any way for us to solve this? And if there isn't a way to solve it, then you go your separate ways. But I can't fathom sitting in a situation where you are so incredibly unhappy and so incredibly disgusted by things going on around you, but you don't have the confidence to speak up and say something. You know, you can't willingly participate in all these different things and then change your mind about it afterwards. Those are your actions. Those are your responsibility. You need to step up and be a man about that. Not sit here and blame me for everything. I'm going to talk about each and every one of these situations as well, by the way. And I'm going to tell everyone exactly what happened in these situations. Because the last thing I'm going to do is sit here and be the big bad guy. I know I'm the big bad guy multiple times, but I'm not going to be the big bad guy this time. No, I refuse. These are situations that have multiple people offering input. Multiple people contributed to the outcome of these situations. And again, keep in mind the other half dozen people that were involved in this that can attest to all the things that I'm going to say. So that's fine. So again, this all started because Mo, I'm going to cross all this shit off so I can keep track. All started because Mo jumped in front of a bullet and took offense to a comment that I made about sleep lock. Conversation wasn't even about him. Conversation had nothing to do with Mo, and he just took offense to it. And like I said, I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was it. Dunzo. I saw the video that Mo posted on Twitter talking about how I'm such a scary person and how I'm so angry all the time. What? You can ask anyone that knows me, anyone that's ever met me. I'm not an angry fucking person. You know, I'll rage in video games and shit like that, but that's something that everyone does. But whenever it comes down to actual situations and actual things going on, if you step to me in a serious manner and we sit and have a conversation about it, I'm not going to blow up on you and do all X, Y, and Z. So Mo's way of handling the situation was to tell me off in this paragraph and then leave the Penta-Op chat and proceed to block me on everything. Again, I can't understand what conclusion comes from that. How are any of these problems that you have solved by just telling somebody off and blocking them? That's not how adults handle situations. That's not how things go down. That's something that would only ever happen here in this community. Period. I just realized the dates on this message. It's January, February, March 2nd. So that's when this happened. That's how long this has been like bubbling and brewing and X, Y, and Z, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So after the stream ended, because like I said, this was he posted this between Mario Kart and Apex Legends. So I finished out the rest of the stream, and I sent Mo a message, and I texted it to him on both of the numbers that I had for him. I don't know what is his current number. On both the numbers I had for him, I sent it to him on WhatsApp. And I noticed that he hadn't blocked me on Instagram yet. So I sent it to him on Instagram as well. And the message is, let me snag it real quick. The message is this. This is actually straight from my cell phone. This is actually straight from my cell phone. And I posted this in the Penta-Op chat so that there are witnesses as well that I did this on that day. Again, 2:45 a.m., March 3rd. That's the day after because primetime goes into the next day. I said, I'm just shooting you a message for general purposes. This isn't a cry for a renewed friendship or to argue anything. I saw what you said, and it's fine. Do what's best for you and your own health and happiness, my dude. Maybe we'll cross paths again in the future. Only thing I can say is that I just wish you would have talked to me about the things that were eating away at you. Not in the sense that we did, because to me, things were resolved. But in the sense that you would have gotten off your chest what you needed to. Apologies for any stress I caused. Just know that was never my intention. Have a good one, Mohit. And now, after I sent that to him on Instagram, he blocked me on Instagram too. So in this situation, I can't do anything. I can't fix a problem that someone doesn't want fixed. I'm just sitting here literally streaming, living my own life, playing my games, streaming, trying to do what I do. And this person who has apparently felt a certain way about me for so long decides to finally do something about it. If you had an issue with me at any point, Mo, and I'm talking directly to you right now, if you had an issue with me at any point, regardless of what it was, all you had to do was say something, and you knew that. You knew that. Anyone that's friends with me knows that. I am not this unreasonable supervillain that just wants to shit on people every day. I don't wake up every day and think to myself, oh boy, how can I manipulate and use Mohit today? No. In the entirety of the time that I was friends with Mo and we created content, how many projects did Mo appear on my channel? How many projects did I appear on Mo's channel? All I did was ask my friend, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Hey, do you want to be a part of this? Hey, do you want to be a part of this? And Mo made the decision himself to show up and participate. I didn't force this person I didn't force this grown man that lives 3,000 miles away to get up every day and go sit down on his computer and record content with me. And we had a powwow call I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. It lasted 6 hours where all of us collectively came together as friends and was just openly honest and brutally honest with each other about our state of mind, how we felt about each other, situations that had gone down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in that call, Mo broke down into tears, talking about how he doesn't feel like himself or his channel is good enough for anything, or he doesn't think that he'll ever be good enough for this. And he was always afraid to ask me for a co-op for a project because I was such a larger channel. Those are literally words that came out of his mouth that he contradicts in that video that he uploaded to his YouTube, where he's talking about, I never saw Nappy as a number and this and that. Yes, you did. You said it. You literally said it. So I can't do anything about somebody that has no self-confidence in themselves and doesn't want to speak to me about any of these issues that they have with me. If we talk about a situation or a matter and the end result is you say, okay, I'm fine. I'm not a mind reader. I can't fix a situation that you don't tell me about. So that's how this situation started with Mo. So I'm going to go into each one individually as he presents it. Because again, I have nothing to hide. I want this off my back. Like I said, the only reason I never spoke about any of these things is because it involves so many people's personal lives. And it's not my place to get up and talk about that. That's a very common thing, especially in the Pokemon community, is that people will talk to every single other person they know about a problem except for the one person that they can fix the problem with. They won't. They just absolutely refuse to. So in this message, the first thing he talks about, keep in mind, all caps, Callum was my best friend. Keep in mind, Callum was my best friend. So actually, I feel like the quality of person that Mo is will really shine in this first situation. And first and foremost, right off the bat, I want to be as adamant about this as possible. There was nothing in between Callum and I. Callum and I, Kristen was my first friend in this community. Callum was my second. Callum and I became incredibly close. We were best friends. Callum was the first person on this planet that I came out to as bisexual. He was the first person that knew that. I trusted him that much. And Callum, I hope and pray that any shred of respect left in you, you will tell the truth regarding this. But there was nothing that went down between Callum and I. Callum and I were good, close friends to the same extent that Shady and I are, Diego and I are, Mo and I were, Nick and I are. That's it. There was no collusion to plot against this 16-year-old sitting in his room in Scotland. You know, here I am with 100,000 plus subscriber channel. Why would I put any of that at risk over that? So those accusations, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I refuse to be drug under in this wake of all this shit with Nathan. Just saying his name pisses me off. But the situation with Mo and Callum, myself and Shelby, Tricky Wee, I feel really bad for Shelby in this situation because I think that she just honestly did what she felt was right, and I think she kind of just had to deal with the repercussions after that. So Shelby, I know you and I haven't actually spoken on this, but I don't hold any sort of ill will towards you over what went down or anything like that. I don't know if that's something that's ever crossed your mind or whatever. But like I said, the caliber of person that Mo is will shine in this example, or in this situation. So this takes place, I don't know what the exact year was. I want to say it's either 2015 or 2016 or 2014 maybe. Whatever the year the first PAX South happened. That's where this took place at. Actually, I would say this story starts probably like 9 months ahead of that. So Mo and Callum and Shelby were friends. You know, like there's always like friend groups, then you have like those that intermingle between the two, but the two friend groups don't really merge together. I was kind of on one side of a friend group, Shelby was kind of on the other, and Mo and Callum and myself were like the ones that intermingled in between. So in this situation, Mo had developed feelings for Shelby. And I would say probably for like 4 or 5 months or so, Mo and Shelby were talking back and forth. They were talking about this and that, X, Y, and Z, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Mo had made it very apparent to her that he was interested. But for whatever reason, you know, things kind of like sizzled out between them, and nothing really happened. So I would say that's probably like spring to like August of the year before PAX South, because PAX South is in January. So I think probably from like August until maybe like November, Mo and Shelby didn't really speak. Like they would talk and interact, but not on the level of like Mo's like, hey, I'm interested in you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, during this time period, Callum and Shelby began speaking. And sure, you could sit there and say, and I understand and I agree as well, you know, Mo and Shelby aren't speaking, so there's no reason for Callum not to pursue Shelby. That's cool, that's fine, and everything. Again, this whole situation just... but in this down period between when Mo and Shelby aren't speaking, Callum and Shelby begin speaking. Now, around November or December-ish, maybe like late October. I feel like December's too late. But sometime basically towards the end of the year, Mo and Shelby begin speaking again. Now, Callum and Shelby don't stop speaking to each other. They're talking the entire time. Mo is talking to Callum on this side, telling him, oh my goodness, you know, I really like her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, X, Y, and Z. All the same stuff he was telling me. And all the while, Callum is over here listening to Mo while he turns around and continues to talk to Shelby, knowing how Mo feels about him. Personally, I think Shelby is involved in that as well. But like I said, I don't feel any ill will towards her. I think she just handled the situation as she felt was appropriate. But by the time PAX South rolls around, Mo has finally worked up this courage after talking to Shelby for damn near a year, off and on. He wants to really make PAX South very special for them. Really, really very special. So they're always off together, you know, they're walking hand in hand and this and that. And I think on like the last night or the second to last night or something like that, Mo takes Shelby aside and he kisses her. He worked up the courage to kiss her. It's Mo's first kiss. You know, we're all in the background like, Mo, you got this. I know you can do it, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Keep in mind, we didn't know that Shelby and Callum were talking throughout all of this. You know, we're here on Mo's side, gassing him up, same as Callum was doing and everything. So later that night, Shelby pulls me aside on the balcony of the hotel room that we were in, and she says, hey, you know, I know we don't really know each other all too well, but I know you're really good friends with Callum. And my initial impression was like, what? And she says, well, Callum sent me this message, and she shows it to me on her phone, and it's this love letter, like of Callum professing his love to Shelby. I can only imagine. I don't know if it's coincidental that the day Mo kissed Shelby was the day that Callum sent this, but I can only imagine that Mo told Callum what had happened, and Callum, sitting alone in Scotland, knowing that Mo and Shelby are together, decided that he was going to message Shelby and make some sort of attempt to, I guess, keep her interested or whatever. But Shelby comes to me and she says, I really don't know how to handle this situation. I just wanted to know what your advice on it is. And in my mind, I'm thinking, damn, shit is about to hit the fan. I don't remember the extent of the conversation we had that day. I probably told her something PC that would just keep the peace while we were all there at PAX South together, with the idea of us dealing with it when we got home, which is eventually what we did. And of course, the truth comes out. And I remember there was a call that we had where it was me, I think Luke may not have been there. I don't remember. All of this is like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. But I think it was me, Luke, Shelby, Callum, and Mo. And essentially, Shelby tells Mo, I'm really confused as to how I feel about things right now. I've had a chance to meet you. Now, I would like a chance to meet Callum. And her idea was that Callum was going to go to PAX East. They were all going to go to PAX East later. And after Shelby met Callum, that's when she would decide who she wanted to be with. What? So, me standing there, spectating all of this, I go to Mo and I say, dude, you are better than this. You do not need to sit here, because that was Mo's response. In the call when she said that to him, Mo sat there and said, well, let me think about it. I feel like any fucking person on this planet would say, look, you know how I feel about you. We've had these moments. We've been talking for a year. I'm not going to sit here and wait for you to go meet some other dude to possibly just tell me that you want to be with him anyways. So I pulled Mo aside and did what I thought was the right thing as a friend. And I told him, hey, you are better than this. You're worth more than this. Do not sit here and be hung up and wait for this female, for her to make some decision with some other dude. In this situation, Shelby and Callum, it was common knowledge. Everyone knew. Everyone knew. Everyone that went to the PAX South trip was aware of what happened. And I told Mo, I said, your best friend, all caps, remember that. Your best friend lied to you, snuck around behind your back, and fucking betrayed you. And you're gonna sit here after being embarrassed about this shit and even consider associating with these people? Like, it's just, like I said, I did what I would have wanted Mo to do for me if the situation was reversed. And yes, there was a time later on when Mo debated being friends and forgiving Callum and Shelby again. And that wasn't like I dropped everything that I was doing and I took off running to go and tell Mo not to do that. Mo came to me. Mo came to me and asked me, I think I want to start talking to these people again. What do you think I should do? Yada, yada, yada. And he came to me because I was there and involved in that situation. I told him, I said, dude, you can do whatever you want. Me personally, I would not speak to those people again. And I was ride or die for Mo from day one in that situation. And that's why Callum and I stopped speaking. I stopped speaking to Shelby over that too. Not that we had any sort of long-lasting or well-built friendship or anything like that. But it was one of those things where it was such a situation that was so like snake-like and just greasy that people just, it left a sour taste in their mouth about it afterwards. And it became one of those things where, we kind of just went our separate ways and stopped talking. And in the past, I think Callum has come to me on 2 separate occasions in an attempt to get me to, I guess, forgive him or let the situation go. I mean, for me, I've let the situation go because there's no point in harboring or being angry or upset about something in the past. I also have made no attempt to be friends with Callum or anything like that because You know, if you show your true colors once, who's to say you won't do it again? You know, this is somebody that I opened up to personally, somebody that I was incredibly close with. And this is how you treated your best friend? I just didn't want to be involved with that. I didn't have space in my life for a person like that. And that's a choice that I made. And some people I know are all about forgiveness and this and that. And that's just, it came to a point where so much time had passed, there was no real value in me adding that person back to my life. So I just left it at that. Dunzo. That's the situation with Shelby and Callum. And Mo. You see now why, like, I never wanted to speak on these things over the years, because it's such personal matters. It's such personal conversation and things like that. It doesn't need to become entertainment for all these people. It doesn't need to be this stuff that you just speak on in X, Y, and Z and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's no place for it. So the next thing that Mo speaks on in his message that he came at me with the power of Thor about, he mentions how I went around telling people that Luke hated them. If I said anything in regards to Luke, it would have been about me. I would have said, like, I don't want to do that because Luke hates me. Or Luke probably did that because Luke hates me. I cannot think of a single time that I have ever sat in a call and told somebody, Game Boy Luke hates you. And Luke, I want you to know that. I want you to know that. That is not something that I have ever done. I don't go around, I mean, even after everything that happened with Callum, I didn't go around talking shit about Callum. Even after all this shit that happened with Mo, I didn't go around talking shit about Mo. So I want you to know, if there's one thing that you can get out of this, Luke, I want you to know that that is not something that I ever did. And you and I had conversations about these things, about your involvement with the group and X, Y, and Z. So the situation with Luke, well, no, I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to finish everything with Mo first. So that's the whole Luke hated us thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm getting a whole bunch of notifications. Is my stream okay? Is my stream okay? I think my stream's okay. I'm not trying to look at the stream. I'm just trying to do this and be done with it. So the whole situation with Diamond, you can ask anybody, any fucking person on this planet. Diamond is one of the worst people that have ever existed, okay? I don't know how she is nowadays. She might be a whole different person. I don't know. But the situation with Diamond basically began, like, Mo and Diamond had been dating for like 3 or 4 months before he introduced her to any of us. And at first, Diamond was mega dope, mega cool. She and I got along really, really well. We cracked jokes, this and that, yada, yada, yada. But then slowly, very slowly, like 4, 5, 6 months into Mo and, well, I guess it would be like 9 months because they were dating like 3 months before we met Diamond. It just turned into like this really, really toxic and aggressive relationship where like we would be sitting in calls and Diamond would like lay into Mo. And I'm sure if you guys have ever seen a stream with Mo and Diamond, or if you ever seen Diamond on Primetime or anything like that, I'm sure you know just what I'm talking about, how Diamond is. You know, she's a very like angry, aggressive, disrespectful, and rude person. And I guess that's how she is with her friends IRL or something. I don't know why she ends up being that way. But there came a point when we were sitting in a call. I think the conversation was about driving. I think Diamond was driving home from work because she did like some medical study or something like that. And she had to drive like an hour and a half to get back home or something like that. And she was like raging about drivers and this and that. And all Mo did in the call was like make a simple comment about like, you know, I thought that this was the way that this did, or something about some driving law that she was bitching about, and Mo literally just replied to her, and she took his head off. I'm talking about she spoke to him like he was a fucking stranger, not somebody that she was dating. And it was one of those things where everyone else in the call was like, oh. And I went aside and messaged Mo afterwards, and I said, look, and these are messages I could find. They're from like 2 years ago. I had to scroll. But I came to Mo and I said, you know, by all means, let me know if I'm overstepping my bounds or anything like that. But are you okay with her speaking to you like this? You know, it doesn't seem like a very healthy relationship. And Mo reassured me, yes, 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 everything's fine. We just joke with each other. That's how things are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To the best of my memory, that happened 3 times over the course of like a year and a half, where I would pull Mo aside. I think one time actually happened IRL. Mo was here at my house. It might have been the old house, actually, now that I think about it, my old house before I moved here. But the point was that it was in person with Mo. And I asked him, I was like, dude, are you sure that you're okay with this? Because, you know, a lot of times there can be abusive relationships or this and that, yada, 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 and someone's afraid to speak up. I mean, clearly Mo has been afraid to speak to me for years and years and years. So I can't imagine Mo would be really gung-ho to get up and stand up to his girl. But Mo assured me every single time, everything is fine. Don't worry about it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much with Diamond, though. There's so much with Diamond. Literally, the entire group had an issue with Diamond. And it wasn't like we woke up that day and decided to vote Diamond off the island or something like that. She was just like a real nasty, nasty person. And it just didn't improve. I think ultimately what ended up happening was, I think it was like we had our group and then the girls had their own separate group, like Jamie, Nikki, Diamond, and Summer, who was Twit's girlfriend at the time. And I think something went down in there and they like started fighting with each other and it spilled over into the main group chat. And essentially, and I feel bad for Mo in this entire situation because Mo basically just got caught up in the middle between Diamond and his friends. And my role in the entire situation, I was the only person the entire time that attempted to like control the situation, that attempted to like diffuse it and find some sort of resolution. I'm talking about people were cursing each other out back and forth because you got to understand the way Diamond speaks to people, you're not going to get a positive response when you speak to somebody that way. I remember specifically there was one call because Diamond and Summer had gotten into it and Twit had, I guess Twit maybe, I think he stood up for Diamond or something like that. I think Twit's in the chat. So Twit, if you want to speak on that, by all means, my dude. But I think that there was some situation that where Twit got involved and I messaged Twit before he joined the call and I said, please do not join this call and flip out. Twit joins the call. The first thing he does is call Diamond a bitch. and and of course, the conversation just degrades from there. So it is what it is. Essentially, it put Mo in this situation where, for me, what I would have done and what I tried to instill the confidence in Mo to do was to step up and say something. Like, I understand that this is your girl and all, but, you know, these are your friends at the same time. You know, I'm not asking you to choose sides or to pick one person over another. I'm asking you to step up and basically do what I was trying to do and find some sort of resolution to this. Because none of us want to stop interacting with Mo because of Diamond. I'm sure Diamond didn't care about it either way. But there were times when we would try and speak to Diamond. I remember there was a call with me, Mo, Nikki, and Diamond. Because there was a call with Summer and Twit because Diamond had an issue there. And then there was a call with Nikki and Diamond because there was an issue there as well. And this call took place on a Saturday before primetime started. Like, I don't know how long ago. It was back at my old house. And Diamond literally sat on mute in the call for 6 hours. She refused to speak. Mo sat in that call begging her to open her mouth and speak. And she refused. She didn't have enough respect for him or any of these people that she so-called called friends to even approach the situation and try and come to a conclusion. So I'm sorry, Mo, out of everything that you have thrown my way or this or that, whatever want to place blame on me, that's one thing that is just flat out wrong. Flat out wrong. I'm not responsible for you and Diamond. You know, there are a lot of contributing factors in that relationship. Diamond and Jay flipped out on Twitter after everything was said and done. That was like a 3-month ordeal. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember that. And Nexus got involved because he was trying to keep the peace in that situation. At that point, I had just given up. You know, I was not interested in trying to make this work for anyone anymore. Because clearly there was no resolution. Diamond wasn't interested in finding a resolution. She was mad and wanted to stay mad. It's like she thrived off of it. And ultimately, in that situation, Mo chose Diamond over each and every one of us. And there was a period of time for about 13, 14 months when I didn't speak to Mo at all. At all. Maybe like in passing, in a tweet, or like in a Discord message or something like that. But Mo and I had no interaction. And, you know, I think the last message that I sent to Mo, I said, dude, everybody is concerned about their relationship with you. No one gives a fuck about Diamond anymore. You want to date her, you want to do stuff on the side, whatever, more power to you. But we want to ensure that our friendship, our relationship with you is secure. That's the only reason that any of us even put up with Diamond. Because to be honest with you, if anybody spoke to me like that, there's no debate, there's no conversation being had. I'm done speaking to you. Period. We only put up with Diamond as long as we did because she was dating Mo. And we wanted to remain friends with Mo because that's how much Mo meant to us. And I can't understand how Mo ever has this confidence issue. I almost said self-conscious. This self-confidence issue with himself when literally all of his friends tell him over and over and over and over and over again how much that we love and care about him and want him to be here. And we're only going through these things because we do give a fuck about you. Unrelated, but literally the last time I spoke to Mo was probably like back in, I don't know, like, well, I saw him at the Royal Rumble. I'm not sure. Grimmy was there. I know Grimmy's in the chat, and I know she doesn't want to speak on things yet. But Grimmy, if you remember that call that we had with Mo, and Mo asked Grimmy about help seeking like a doctor or a therapist or something. And I literally sat in that call and said, Mo, I really think that this is something you should do because you're fucking awesome. You are the fucking man, Mo. Like, I was literally just sitting there, like, it was jokes and everything, but it's at the end of the day, there's truth to it. I was gassing the shit out of Mo. All the while, Mo feels this way about me. So this whole situation with Diamond, going back, this whole situation with Diamond, no, that's not on me, dog. That's not on me. You and Diamond ended because of Diamond. Period. You know, I forgave Mo for his actions in those situations, for him choosing to just basically abandon all of us and not speak to us and X, Y, and Z and yada, yada, yada over these situations. That's not anything that I ever held against Mo. Not once. Because I understand he had rose-colored glasses on. You know, this was his first serious relationship. He didn't want to lose her. X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, I know Mo isn't stupid. Mo knows you can look at a situation and tell like what's right and what's wrong in it. After Mo and Diamond split, excuse me. After Mo and Diamond split, let's try this one more time. After Mo and Diamond split, Mo hit me up about coming back to prime time and wanted to be involved with more group projects again and this and that, yada, yada, yada. I don't know why he needs my permission to do any of that. You're friends with everyone, not just me. You know, that's another thing that we'll talk on towards the end of this. I'm going to make a note about this so I don't forget. But he came to me and was asking if he could rejoin Primetime, which again, I know a lot of you guys that watch Primetime for a long time, I'm sure you remember there was a long period of time where Mo was not a part of it. He just up and disappeared and wasn't a part. Him and Diamond both just packed their shit up and left. So he came back to me and asked if he could be a part of this and X, Y, and Z and yada, yada, yada. And of course, I said, sure, dude. I'm just glad that you came to a conclusion and you fixed that situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I also remember a call in, I think it was me, Mo, Luke, and Patters. And Mo was essentially just sitting there talking about how toxic this relationship with Diamond was, how she was such a horrible fucking person, and how he should have listened to us from day one when we said that Diamond was this horrible person, that he deserves so much better, X, Y, and Z. And he was telling me about how Diamond is flaunting her new boyfriend and like mentioning him in tweets. And I guess she went to PAX East with her new boyfriend and was trying to like basically just dump on Mo. She was making tweets like, my boyfriend is so much better than my last one, or whatever. I don't remember the exact situation, because at that point I was just done and over with Diamond. But that, again, is where we left the situation. Like I said, if we end a conversation and you tell me that it's all okay and all right, how can I can't read minds. I can't fix a conversation. I can't fix a situation without a conversation. Period. So that whole situation with Diamond was done and over with. The last thing that Mo mentions is him crying. How I drove him to tears. Now, I have this entire conversation screenshotted here. Because this took place in the PokemonTeaParty chat. This took place 3 days before my birthday this year. And admittedly, I am rather abrasive in the conversation. That's just because Mo was like stonewalling me about it. And at the end of the day, what Mo wanted is still what ended up happening. But I'll read the conversation to you. I said, Mo, we should totes record tonight. Yeah? Yeah. He said, I cannot. I have to team build with Leo tonight. I said, nigga, all night you're team building? He said, I'm done at 11, edit squad locks and cage locks for the rest of the week, and then ZZZ, going to sleep. I said, nigga, whack. It's just like regular conversation, like what we would have if we were speaking to each other. He says, my only other free day is Wednesday. So the original reason why I wanted to move the recording session, I think, if I remember correctly, I think this September 17th was a Monday. Yes, September 17th was a Monday, and the 20th is my fucking birthday. We would record the cage lock every Thursday. Because if you guys remember, for a very long time, I didn't stream on Thursdays while we were doing the cage lock. It's because we would record at like 6 o'clock my time, and we would do the cage lock. So that week, I asked Mo, can we record on any other day that isn't my fucking birthday? I said, nigga, whack. My only other free day is Wednesday. I said, I'm just trying to free up time so I don't have to stream until 2 in the morning. And cage lock is literally the only thing that I record on Thursday. I set aside an entire day to record with Mo. He said, yeah, but then I'm up till 2 a.m. I said, how though? How many episodes do we have to record? And we have this whole conversation about this. He says he has to edit for 2 hours. It's 5 videos. And I said, wait, we have episode 19 going up today, right? And he corrects it and says it's, the episode is Unforgiven. I said, okay, so Unforgiven, then 19 on Wednesday and episode 20 on Friday. Mo says, yes. I said, aren't we recording a cage match next? Yes. I said, so we can't do a cage match and 2 short episodes tonight. That's like an hour and some change at the most, as long as we just record. Period. Another reason that I wanted to record on this Monday night is because I already had a different recording session scheduled. So instead of taking multiple days off from streaming, or instead of being forced to record on my birthday, I figured, why don't we just record tonight? You know, I'm free. The whole point in this conversation was to see if Mo is free. So what I'm proposing to him is that we record 2 short episodes, like 20-minute episodes. I know you guys have seen that before on YouTube when we have like shorter episodes in a series. It's just because we're facing a time crunch that week and we don't have time to sit down and record a 45-minute episode. So I was recommending, like, why don't we do 2 20-minute episodes, and then a cage match is like 10 minutes, if that. So that's why I said an hour and some change at the most. You can't swing that tonight at all. You got to team build with Leo all fucking night long. He said, I can try, but I don't get home from the gym until late. And I said, you know, I just record. I'm just asking because I've already scheduled tonight for recordings. My first sentence doesn't make any fucking sense. And I'd rather do as much as I can on a night, you know, so if it's possible, let's just knock it out tonight and then we're good for all of next week. And again, this is in the PokemonTeaParty chat. Jay, Twit, Nexus, everyone else is in that chat. They can scroll up and look at this and see it's right there. He said, if you want to change the schedule so we can record from Mondays from now on, I can do that. This was during the period of time where Mo allowed a Google document to control his life. I'm talking about Mo would have this Google document where he would have every hour of the day scheduled. I don't know if he ever made tweets about that or this or that or anything, but again, all of us were there. We all knew it. So basically, me asking Mo to record on Monday night conflicted with his preset schedule. So then Mo says, if you want to change the schedule, we can record on Mondays from now on. I can do that. I don't want to change the schedule. It's just this week. So I don't have to cancel the stream and I don't have to record on my fucking birthday. Can we record tonight? That's it. I said, we don't need all that. I just want to get through Spider-Man, LOL. That's what I was streaming at the time. And not take 5 weeks to stream it. So I'm trying to free up time without being up till 2 a.m. streaming. He says, I just don't want to be up till 2 a.m. either. I said, you shouldn't. If we record at 11 and we're done by 12:30, edit the vids for the next day and be donezo. He said 5 videos from 12:30. I said, why do you have to edit 5 videos tonight? You know, think about it like this. If there's a schedule and you move one block to a different day, take that other block and put it where that first block was at. And your schedule still works. Mo didn't want to do that. I said, why do you have to edit 5 videos tonight, though? Just knock out what's necessary and do the rest tomorrow. He said, I hate doing that. Or do them on Thursday when we would normally record. That's what I was just trying to explain. He said, and those videos are for this week. So then at that point, I said, Sai, never mind. Let's just record on Thursday. On my birthday, let's just record on Thursday. Mo replies, okie doke. How, again, if you say okay to a situation and you feel a different way about it, why don't you speak up and say something? You know, I don't understand this whole league of villains that say I'm this master manipulator and X, Y, and Z and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And these are decisions that you are making. You did this. You chose to do that. You chose to tell me okay when you weren't okay with it. So then I said, again, I was pretty abrasive. I was aggravated by the situation. I said, having a schedule is dope. Having an inflexible schedule is whack. He said, okay. And then he came back later and said, I make my schedule for the week and follow it for the most part. If I didn't have to do it in the night, I could easily move everything, but I'm busy every night until Friday usually. If I didn't move all my editing for this week to Monday, I would have been down tonight. I'm sorry I can't move it this week. I'm usually able to move stuff, but I literally cannot this week. I know how it feels. I'm on the other side. I'm usually able to match times anyone asks me to, so you know that. So I'm sorry. I don't think I'll be able to do it this week. My fault, my bad. Usually flexible, I stay up pretty late for the penta-op, so unluck. Penta-op is a different conversation. There were plenty of times when I was frustrated with the penta-op because it would just take entirely way too fucking long to record that. There were times when we would record 3 episodes at a time and it would take us like 7 hours to get 3 episodes recorded. So in that situation, like, he's saying that because the penta-op goes on my channel, but that's not something that I control. You know, I'm not the one that's there causing the penta-op recording sessions to take 7 hours and he's there until 2 a.m. in the morning his time. So that's where the conversation ended that day. And later that week, Mo and I got into a call and we spoke on the situation. And I clarified my comment about having a schedule is dope, having an inflexible schedule is whack. And I guess Mo, like, took offense to it because, like, he identifies as his schedule. Like, his schedule, he lives his life by it. So I guess somehow by me disrespecting his schedule, he took offense to it as well. Because just from this conversation, I could not imagine a grown man breaking down into tears over this conversation. It just doesn't make sense. And if you are so upset with something, to the point that you are crying over it, you need to speak up and say something. Nobody can fix that but you. And yes, I'm talking directly to Mo because Mo and I never had this conversation. All these people that are upset and angry at me don't speak to me. So how can I fix any of these problems if these people don't speak? You have this problem and then you just block me and move on. So I can't fathom Mo breaking down into tears over this conversation, especially because we still ended up recording on that Thursday. Actually, I don't think we did. I think we did move it to later that week or something like that. But at the end of that conversation, we were still going to record on Thursday. But then once Mo realized that it was my birthday and I wasn't trying to record on my birthday, that's when he moved it. So again, even then, why is that a conversation that would bring you to tears? I don't understand that. I don't get that. So you see how, like, these people have this issue, and, you know, I'm going to keep referencing this after all these situations, how there are these revolving problems that nobody speaks on. Nobody talks about. Mo will go and talk to Luke, and he'll go and talk to Nexus, and he'll go and talk to X, Y, and Z, and everyone else, but he refuses to speak to me. And in his video that he posted on Twitter, Mo, I'm not sure if that was his intention, but the impression that's given is that the end of the cage lock is my fault. And that just simply isn't true. I'm pretty sure the last 3 recording sessions, I think the first one I overslept a little bit, so we rescheduled it. And the second 2, Mo 100% no-showed and made no attempt to reschedule. So for me, I was there. Like, I fucked up on my first one, I overslept. I was there for the next 2. I was sitting at my computer waiting to record with Mo. Mo's nowhere to be found. So the end of the cage lock is not my fault. That's not my doing. I was there ready to record the episodes. Mo no-showed, never spoke to Mo, and I still have not had a conversation about the cage lock. To this day, we have not had a conversation about the cage lock. He just canceled it. Didn't speak to me about it. Because apparently he felt some kind of way, X, Y, and Z, this, and that. And you know, it wasn't until I had a conversation with Nick after Mo's initial message during prime time, and Nick was like, dog, you know, I really feel for you in this. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, if it were me in this situation, I would be livid. I would be so angry and so mad about all this stuff because, you know, Mo felt this kind of way about me all this time. Never said a word. He came to my house, slept under my roof, drank my alcohol, ate my food, feeling this kind of way about me. Mo went to the Royal Rumble on my dime. That nigga had second row seats, and I didn't ask him to pay for any of it. I did that because it's my fucking friend. And I know he would enjoy going to see that. Never once asked Mo for any of that. And I'm not holding it against him. I'm just talking about the conversation that Nick and I had. You know, it's one of those things where I've bent over backwards so much, not in an attempt to manipulate, not in an attempt to control, not to do any of this stuff. And I was talking to Shady about this, and Shady had a really great comment about it, where he said, you know, people that have money don't want to just let go of that money immediately. Or I'm paraphrasing, it's something along those lines. So anyone that has money is not just going to sit there and just spend it frivolously and on anything and everything. I spent that money on my friend because Mo would enjoy it. This is the fucking note that Mo left us in the hotel room because he left ahead of us. Yes, Mo, I kept it because that's the kind of relationship that I thought Mo and I had. But we didn't. He sat and felt this way about me the entire time and refused to speak up, refused to say a word. So tell me, how am I supposed to fix that situation? Tell me, what am I supposed to do there to fix that? You're sitting here crying in tears over a conversation. The situation with Mo, I don't feel any sort of remorse about. I don't. Mo and I had been growing apart over the past couple months as it is. That's something that Nexus and I had a conversation about. I confided in Nexus a lot because, again, Nexus is one of my best friends, or at this point was one of my best friends, and I confided in him quite a bit. I confided in Shady as well about my relationship with Mo and how it was very one-sided. You know, it was very, like, clearly I gave much more of a fuck about the relationship than Mo did. So I don't know if Mo only saw me as this number for all these years, and that's why he was afraid to speak to me, or this and that, and yada, 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 whatever. I don't know. But at the end of the day, no. No. You are not going to place this blame on me. You are a grown-ass man. Step up, stop being a coward, and accept responsibility for the choices that you made. Nobody else made those choices but you. You chose to show up. You chose to be a part. You chose to be quiet about how you actually felt for so fucking long. So no, absolutely not. I will not sit here and let Mo sit on a video and cry talking about how nasty and angry and how horrible of a person Nappy is. Fuck that. Absolutely not. No. It's a little bit of Nick coming out of me right now because I was never this angry or upset about the situation. I think I'm really just feeling the moment right now. But that more or less is dealing with Mo's situation. So moving on to Luke and the situation with Luke. I want to thank Luke for being the one to out my sexuality on Twitter. I wish you would have gotten it correct, though. I am actually bisexual. That is something that I have kept to myself for a very long time because I feel like I have so much of my life infused into my content, so much of my life that I share with you guys. I think that a personal relationship is something that I should be able to keep to myself. Out of everything, I think that that's something I should keep to myself. It's not that I'm embarrassed about it or anything or X, Y, and Z, and yada, yada, yada. You know, people said stuff all the time about me and Luke when we were best friends, when we were good friends doing this and that, and yada, yada, yada. I didn't mind any of those stuff that people said and this and that because I don't give a fuck at the end of the day. You know, none of these people on Twitter, none of these people on YouTube have any sort of influence or impact in my life. And that's one thing that I want to tell everyone that's watching right now. You know, if you are struggling with your sexuality or anything like that, and you're afraid of X, Y, and Z or this and that, yada, 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 trust me when I say, at the end of the day, do you. Do what you feel is best. You have one life on this planet. You get one trip around this rock. Spend it with who you like, period. Spend it with who you like, who makes you happy, etc., etc., etc. And again, like I said, it's not like I kept it a secret. It's just something I didn't put on my channel. Everyone, all of my close friends knew about my sexuality. Everyone did. Ralphie knew, Twit knew, Jamie knew. Everyone that's a part of the group knew what my sexuality was. So in this situation with Luke, I was incredibly upfront with Luke from the start. I let Luke know right away how I felt about him. And I don't think Luke is a very stupid person. I don't, even to this day, regardless of everything that's happened, I don't think Luke is a very stupid person. So to me, that means that either Luke hung around and did what he did, or I don't mean to say did what he did. He hung around and was friends and was in such a relationship with me, not like a relationship, I mean relationship like a close friendship, for so long because either A, he felt a certain way too, which he's denying, okay, or B, he understood that being buddy-buddy and being that close with me would greatly help his channel and X, Y, and Z. I don't want to get into all these assumptions and this and that because, again, this is a conversation that Luke and I have not had because Luke acts the same way that Mo does. They come up with an issue, they come up with a problem, they block me, don't speak to me. And they let it sit and fester for years and years and years and years and years, and here we are now. So in the situation with Luke, what ended up happening basically is I was upfront with Luke from the jump about how I felt about him. And we would go through these cycles where like we would get closer and closer and closer. And right as you know, like anyone that's been in a relationship knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like right as you get to that threshold of crossing over into like making things official or whatever, Luke would always shy away. And the answer would always be no, you know, I don't really feel that way, yada, yada, yada. And then he and I wouldn't speak for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then lo and behold, we would start talking again. And this happened probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. And after that, I got to the point where I told myself like, look, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I don't want to be involved in this cycle anymore. It just is not healthy. And that's a conversation that I did have with Jamie. I understand that Jamie is in question, this and that right now, but I did have a conversation with Jamie about that at that time. And she advised me. She said, you know, if you don't want to be a part of this circle anymore, then just break it off. Tell him, look, I can't do this anymore. And that's what I did. I told Luke, you know, I can't be as close personal friends with you as this. It just isn't healthy. You know, there were days when me and Luke would sit and literally we would message each other from the moment we woke up and speak until the moment we went to bed that night. Like, if nothing was ever going to happen, Luke definitely did quite a bit to sway me into believing that something would happen. There's no reason that I would stick around for as long as I did if that was the case. I don't hold any ill will against Luke for that either. I don't. But it got to the point where I told Luke, I was like, look, I'm done with this. I think we should go back to being friends as we were. Period. You know, the same kind of friends that I am with Nick, Mo, Nexus, everyone else. You know, we don't need to have this close personal relationship any longer. This clearly isn't something you're interested in. Let's be done with it. So that's when Luke and I began to drift apart. That's when if you guys noticed, like all of our projects kind of stopped, and we weren't really like streaming together anymore. We weren't talking, and it wasn't something like he and I left on bad terms or anything like that. You know, it was just that's what it was. I guess Luke maybe interpreted it that some way different. But Luke, I think probably for a period of like 9 or 10 months or something like that, he went and hung out with Callum and like that entire group of people. So automatically that makes me feel some kind of way because, you know, this being 2 or 3 years back, you know, it's 2 or 3 years fresher from the incident with Callum and Mo. So I was just sitting there, like I couldn't understand how you could sit and watch everything that went down in that situation and want to go and be friends with them again. That's just me. That's just me. That's my thought process. I know a lot of people agree. A lot of people might disagree. Some people believe in the power of forgiveness, whatever. But it isn't something that I ever held against Luke. You know, Luke went out of his way to go and make friends with them. I never once said to Luke, we can't speak anymore. I never once said to Luke, we can't make projects anymore. I never once said to Luke, hey, this and that, yada, yada, yada. You know, the whole point in us taking a step back is so that I could take care of my own mental well-being and not be stuck in this cyclical series of events over and over and over and over and over again. So for a short period of time, like I said, like 9 or 10 months, Luke and I, we kind of like, we would exchange like tweets and stuff like this. You know, we'd message each other like, hey, I know it's been a while since we talked. How you doing? Yada, yada, yada. And then if you guys remember, was it last year? No, it wasn't last year. It was the summer before. Because last summer was Summer with the Squad. We're going to talk about that too. But the summer before that, if you remember when I was doing those morning streams, and there was one stream that we had where Luke came on and he screen shared him making the Moon Wonderlock intro and stuff like that. That's when Luke and I started talking again. And in these conversations with Luke, Luke would say things like, you know, I really wish we could go back to the way things were. You know, I really wish that we never stopped hanging out. I really wish we would make content again. I really wish we would game and this and that. And I told him, I said, dude, I have a couple projects lined up, so I can't do anything right now, but I wouldn't be against it in the future. Luke asked me if he could come to my house. He asked if he could fly out here. And I said, sure, just tell me the dates. And that's the same response I give to everyone. Same response I gave to Diego. Shino asked me that once. Nick asked me that before. And I said, sure. Matter of fact, Ralphie's coming down here next week. Ralphie said he wanted to come down here. I said, just give me the dates. By all means, come out here. And then there was some trip, I think, that was planned for August or something of that year. And I told Luke, I said, hey, all these people are going to be out here. Why don't you come out then? So Luke was like, okay, let me see where my finances are at, and we'll see what we can do. Ultimately, that trip never happened. So Luke didn't come out here. But in regards to him and the group, you know, the primetime server that we have, Luke was a part of it. Luke could have clicked join call at any time. Luke could have typed in the chat and said, hey, do you guys have an open spot in Overwatch? Do you guys have an open spot in Fortnite? Whatever the fuck we were playing at the time. And I told Luke that. I said, you aren't interested in any sort of further relationship with me. So that side of me that you knew then, I can't be that way with you anymore because you aren't interested in that. So I'm going to treat you the same way that I treat Jamie and Nick and Nexus and Mo and Shady and Pika. I'm going to treat you the same way as everyone else. Like I told him before, we should go back to being friends how we were. That, I guess, just wasn't enough for Luke. That just wasn't enough. I don't know. Because after that point, Luke basically just stopped interacting altogether. You know, there was no more of these, hey, how are you doing? You know, it's been a while since we talked type of message or anything. You know, Luke and I just kind of went our separate ways. And for me, again, in that situation, it was handled. It was resolved. You know, and you can ask anybody that's in our primetime server. Nobody gets individual invites to come and play a game. If you see people are in call, click the join call button. Join call. Hang out. Participate. But again, that's a choice that you made. You chose not to join. You chose not to be a part. I didn't force you out of any friend group. I didn't tell anyone that they didn't want to be your friend or X, Y, and Z and this, and that. That's a self-imposed exile. That's something that you did. And up until Luke left the server, Luke was not kicked out, by the way. Up until Luke left the server, that's what he did. He didn't interact. He didn't say anything. Sure, maybe because of time zones, but there is at least some point during the day when we're all awake and woke and gaming together. So even then, the excuse of time zones only goes so far. So it's like, what am I to do in that situation? Do I have to reach out and hold his hand and say, here, please, Luke, come and play this video game with me. Here, please, Luke, come and join us for prime time. Here, please, Luke, come and do this co-op with me. You know, this is a similar situation, issue that I had with Jamie and Nikki a few years back. And matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I gave him that example then and there. You know, Jamie and Nicole would always think the absolute worst or something, and they would never want to join call or say this or that or yada, yada, yada. And I told them, all you have to do is type in the chat. All you have to do is speak up, say something, join, come and play. That's it. All you have to do. But Luke and I guess, stopped speaking, and that ended up going the route that you guys know, and here we are today because of it. The next thing I wanted to speak on was the UCL. Because this, I'm telling you, when I tell you I want to get all this shit off my fucking back, I want it all done. I don't want fuck to do with these people anymore. I don't want fuck to do with this shit. I'm tired. I'm over it. I'm literally tired because I'm fucking sick. I'm over this shit. So the situation with the UCL and somewhere with the squad. UCL Season 3 was in preparation for about a year and a half, basically. You know, that's why I say all the time when people ask me questions about this and that and yada, 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 you know, how come you don't have this planned out, or when is this going to be a thing, when is that? And I always say, I got you in my hands. It's because we put so much timing and planning and X, Y, and Z into everything. So there was a couple different conversations over the course of like a year and a half regarding the UCL, and a bunch of different people's involvement in it. And there were a lot of people that felt like the UCL didn't need to become the GBA, because the GBA was like super ultra hardcore competitive, things like that. That was one issue that I know Shady expressed to me. You know, he didn't want to deal with aggressive comment sections. I was right there with him in that boat. You know, he didn't want to be placed in that position, and I'm sure you guys know shortly after that he started doing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So we talked about multiple different avenues of how we could do UCL Season 3, and a little known fact, which I don't know why it's a little known fact, but I don't know if everyone knows this, but the UCL is co-owned by myself, Nexus, and Mo. Meaning that there are no decisions that can be made without all three of us being in agreement. So ultimately, we were talking about UCL Season 3. And I would say probably in like November, like October or November of 2017. Excuse me. I was talking to Nexus and Mo about it, and I was saying, you know, we need to do this, this, and this. We should announce it on January 1st. People would lose their fucking minds. We could have the draft on February 1st. The announcing on January 1st thing, that's where Season 4 of the UCL came from. That was that idea that we had originally then. We didn't execute it in 2018, so we're going to do it in 2019. Again, all this planning. So we were talking about this, and for every UCL season so far, I have literally bled from my eyeballs to make it happen. Literally. I have sat here every single draft stream. I was sitting here all night, like 16 hours beforehand, working on stuff. I think in the first season, and I think in the second season, I'm not sure, but I know Luke did VFX work for that. So there are a lot of us that came together to make it happen, but basically, if I am not in a position where I can say, okay, let's do this and let's do this, let me go get this, yada, yada, yada. Basically, if I don't pick up the slack and make sure shit gets done, all these projects that you guys know and love would have never been a thing at all. Period. It would have never happened. UCL Season 3 would never happen if I didn't do something about it. So after doing UCL Season 1, off season, UCL Season 2, I was like burnt out and feeling a little bitter about it because there's 3 owners. Why am I the one doing so much of the work? Mo did help with the Little Cup off season. Mo was there the night before helping us with that as well. But Nexus, nothing. Nexus was in the call, but he wasn't doing anything. So I'm sorry, Nexus. The whole point in this is just the truth, and that's what happened. But in like November, December, we decided that we wanted it to be January 1st. So I told Mo, I said, look, I'm going to go and message everyone and get a roster together. What I want you guys to do is to handle the graphics. Get the graphics taken care of, get any new team logos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera that we need so that we can be ready to go on January 1st. Do you want to know what Mo did in the month and a half that he had to do? If you remember, actually, let me see if I have it on this computer. You want to know what Mo got done in that month and a half? This. That is the only thing Mo did, was this image. I'm sure you guys remember that from the stream. That's it. Now, when it comes to the UCL, we need a lot more than just that. We need thumbnails, we need stream graphics, we need rules, brackets, what's it called, a schedule for the entire season. There's much more that goes into the UCL than just that. But that's all Mo managed to get accomplished. That was it. So come January, when we realized that we weren't going to be ready because Mo just drug his feet the entire time with this situation, Nexus decided he was going to step up. And he was going to be the one to take care of the graphics because, I guess in his words, like Mo was slacking or whatever. So I said, okay, Nexus, do it. You got it. And I had much more confidence in Nexus because I would say out of everybody that was a part of the group, aside from myself, I think the most work-oriented people are definitely Nexus, followed by Nick. Those 2 niggas, when they set their mind to something, they will get shit done. So I let Nexus handle it. So a month goes by, and in that time, Nexus, I think, reaches out and works with some other graphic artists. And essentially, the situation devolves into Nexus like being the middleman, where it's like Nexus would go and talk to the graphic artist and then get what the graphic artist did and then came back and showed me and say, what do you think of this? And at first, I'm like, Nexus, you know what we need. Why are you showing me all this stuff? You know, if you're just passing along these notes to the graphic artist, why did I ask you to do it anyways? I could just go find a graphic artist and get it done. So ultimately what ended up happening was Nexus put me in a group chat with the graphic artist. I don't remember who it was. I apologize. But the conversation kind of just devolved because the graphic artist wasn't understanding like what I was trying to do. Like one of the thumbnails was a team building thumbnail that had like the construction tape on it. That just wasn't something that ended up coming to fruition. So that kind of just fizzled out. And maybe that was my fault. Maybe I should have just formally said, hey, I don't think this is going the right way. We're done with this. Let's move on. But essentially, this graphic project had failed on Nexus again. Mo dropped the ball on it. Nexus dropped the ball on it. So we sat, and I was under the impression, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I wasn't too happy with the way UCL Season 2 played out. You guys know that. I did not hide that at all. So I'm not exactly gung-ho to get up and do a UCL Season 3. So I just let it sit. I didn't fuck with it. I didn't do anything. And the months passed, and we decided to do this project somewhere with the squad. And the idea with that was, you know, we were talking about like reminiscing how like back in the day, you know, anytime we would drop a project or do something, you know, it would be so colossal and so monumental that everybody just stopped and looked at us. And maybe that's where the whole power and control and this and that, what they're talking about, comes from. But that was the idea that we wanted to get back to. We wanted to do something that was so impactful that, you know, everybody would be like, damn, they really doing it. That was the point in it. And in Summer with the Squad, you know, we had all these projects lined up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we had 3 primary group projects to keep like the hype rolling throughout the entire thing. The first was, I think it was PK's Mario Tennis Aces tournament. The second was, the UCL, because that was in June, and the third was the White 2 tag lock. So when we decided to include UCL, the conversation came up of who are we actually going to include? Who are we actually going to include in this project? And to what extent are we going to execute this with? And ultimately, we decided to include it in Summer with the Squad. So we had multiple calls where not just me, Nexus, Mo, but all 8 of us sat together, and I think Shady was absent for a couple. I'm really trying hard here to like pan everything out as it was. But we really sat and deliberated like a final roster. We had like a roster of 8, which was just us, a roster of 12, a roster of 16, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, collectively, as a group, we decided to go with just the 8 of us. It fit the Summer with the Squad project well enough. All 3 owners of the UCL were a part of it. They were there. So what's the problem? What's the point? You know, we would message the people that were a part of it last season and say, hey, this is the idea we have. It's nothing against you. It's just we think it would really, really fit well with this branding and everything else that we're doing, yada, yada, yada. And Luke, I want you to know that you were involved in a lot of the conversation about this. And ultimately, when we decided that what the final roster was going to be, the vote was 7-1. And do you know who the one person was that said that, no, we shouldn't do just the 8 of us, we should do something else? It was Nick. Out of all people, I'm so proud of this nigga for growing up and maturing the way that he has. But it was Nick. Nick was the one person, and it's no secret Nick and Luke don't see eye to eye. I think they're on speaking terms as of now. But Luke has known for years that Nick despised him. Nick makes it no secret who he likes and who he doesn't like. But Nick was the one person that said, yes, we should do this. So your new best friend, Mo, and Nexus and everybody else, they didn't want you involved in that project. They didn't want anyone else but the 8 of us involved in that project. And I told everyone then and there, I said, if we're going to do this, we need to collectively come together and stand behind this decision. You know, this can't be something where, you know, half of us are like, yeah, well, you know, we thought about it and we thought this was the best idea and this and that. I said, no, if we're going to do this, then we need to do it. That's the whole point in Summer with the Squad. Oh my God. So, the week of the Summer with the Squad trailer, we are doing so much. So fucking much. Just everything. Everything. It is nonstop. Go. My family was in town as well. And I'll accept full responsibility for this. I was not able to message everyone ahead of time. I reached out to Joey, Leo, Dan. I just was not able to message everyone in time. And I didn't think much of it in the moment because I thought to myself, okay, I'll just message them tomorrow, explain everything that's going on, and we'll be hunky-dory. Because again, like the last time I spoke to Luke, we left everything on good terms, X, Y, and Z, yada, 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 and it is what it is. Well, I guess Luke caught an attitude, and I guess that's the beginning of all of this, how he feels the way that he feels about this. And that's when he blocked me. He blocked me on Twitter the day after the Summer with the Squad video went live. And like I said, I accept full responsibility for that. Maybe I should have put forth more of an effort to make sure that all loose ends were tied up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I apologize for that. I accept responsibility, yes. At the same time, there are 3 owners, but as I've already explained, if I don't do it, it doesn't happen. So that's the situation with the UCL. The conversation now revolves into something much, much more than this. Much, much more than this. And this takes place after the initial message that Mo sent me. The one where he told me off with the power of Zeus and this and that, and yada, yada, yada. So what ends up happening and what comes to light is that apparently Mo and his best buddy, Dunois, have not been very honest with their actions and how they have decided to go about getting revenge against me. And there are a lot of situations, some that involve Diego, a very important one that involves Nicole, and one that involves Grimmy. Grimmy said that she would be all right with me speaking on it, but she doesn't want to speak on it right now herself. I can see if Nicole is around so that she can speak on it as well, because she was involved in it then and there. But essentially, what ended up happening is Mo and Dumois, as they decided to like slowly break away from the group, they decided that they wanted to reach out in like separate side chats and start talking to people and trying to essentially like convince them that I am this horrible, horrific person and that these people shouldn't waste their time. Now, that's not what happened with Diego. I'm gonna clarify that. Again, I'm trying to keep everything as perfectly clear. But there's these situations where they're trying to convince everyone that, you know, X, Y, and Z, Nappy's a horrible person, this and that. I took a special offense to Wondermark where Dumois said that ever since my aunt died, I had just been a cock to everyone around me. And I don't know where this 18-year-old child gets off speaking about my dead aunt like that at all. I would really appreciate it if you kept that out of your mouth. You stop talking about people that you don't know anything about. You know, Dumois isn't involved in this situation at all. I don't understand why, to what extent, or why to the extent that he is involved in this. I don't get that. I don't understand. But I'm guessing that's because Mo and Dumois are just buddy-buddy like that. But in each of these situations, like Grimmy went to, Dumois went to Grimmy and was basically telling her, like, you know, do you know this about Nappy and X, Y, and Z about Nappy, and they're such a horrible group, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I have the message, and Grimmy gave me permission to share these messages. So I think I can pull it up. I just have to find it. I didn't get a chance to, like, snag everything before I started this. I think this is it right here. Let me see. Let me get all of these before we start in on this. Okay. So this situation. So this is the first message from Dumois to Grimmy. It says, yeah, about Callum, then you already know about him abusing Callum, but he also kept going, tried to do the same thing with Luke, eventually moved him from every group they had and told people that Luke hated them. He essentially did that same thing with Nikki ages ago. Asked Nikki about that. Told her that no one wanted her back except him, which made her leave for a year. Aside from that, he's abusive on a day-to-day basis and has no care about people's emotions. He's an advocate for the fact that if people have a problem with him, then take it up with him, yet he dismisses their feelings about him and gives them the whole ZZZ. He's the most outlandish hypocrite you could think of. Then the conversation continues. Grimmy copy and pasted this. And she was saying, I talked a bit about it with Nexus, especially because Nexus was going through it. Dumois says, also, Nikki's an unstable mess, but that's a whole other topic, LMAO. And yes, this has been a recent thing, especially more since the Disneyland trip after Nappy's aunt died. He's been like an extra cock to everybody and unapologetic about it, until someone he cared about finally left. I'm guessing he's referencing Mo. Grimmy says, yeah, so I'm in Nikki's corner. She got really low recently, suicidally low. I cleaned out the spare room in my house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, Grimmy is not trying to, like, converse with Dumois about me. She's more so focused on the situation with Nikki. And of course, the first thing that tips Grimmy off about all of this is the fact that Dumois fucking hates Grimmy. Dumois has never made it a secret that he does not like Grimmy. So Grimmy's red flag immediately goes off of, why is this dude that fucking hates me speaking to me? Why is he trying to talk to me about all this stuff? Dumois says, yeah, sorry to hear that about Nikki and stuff. We used to have a side group with a couple people, and I learned a lot of reoccurring traits that I didn't want to deal with. Like, she said she hated primetime and didn't want to show up. Yeah, she keeps joining their calls even though she keeps getting bullied. So she just acted stupider and stupider and contradicted her own words constantly, which is why I kicked her. And then Grimmy continues and says, it just got on the subject of Nikki. Then Jamie, apparently Dumois super doesn't like Jamie, and made jokes about Jamie's child, Kelsey, who has absolutely nothing to do with any of this. And I think that regardless of how you feel about Jamie at this current moment, I don't think you should ever bring someone's child into a conversation about something. You know, Dumois and Jamie have exchanged 3 words with each other. So why is he talking about Kelsey like this? I don't understand it. So that was Dumois' original messages to Grimmy, and Grimmy had let me know about it, and I was like, okay, well, that's pretty fucked. But all right, I didn't realize that Dumois was involved in all of this stuff. But then later that day when we spoke to Nicole, which I don't know where Nikki's at, because I would much rather her speak on this because this was something that she was a part of. But this whole situation with Nicole, apparently they had made a side group with Nicole, and I don't know for how long it lasted. I don't know if it was a month or a couple months. But apparently they had been telling Nicole that everybody in primetime hates her, and that everyone thinks she's a bitch, and that I go around telling people that she's a bitch, and I try and keep people from interacting with Nicole, and X, Y, and Z, and this, and that, and basically just like brainwashing Nicole into believing all these things that just aren't true. And Nicole and I have spoken since then, and she understands that, you know, the situation that she was in. But ultimately, this all came to a head because Nikki said that they would just sit in calls and pull up other people's social blades and just shit talk and run their mouth. Apparently, Dumois at one point said that he was going to message one of his friends at Twitch and keep them from sending out notification emails when Primetime went live so Primetime could die. I'm like, dog, this sounds like something from the Modern Warfare 2 era of YouTube. And I realized it's because I was a kid when Modern Warfare 2 was out. And Dumois is a kid. He's 18 years old. So I understand where this mindset and everything comes from regarding all of this. And I never had any ill will towards Dumois. Until all of this came out, I never had any issue or problem with Dumois. Dumois, I hope that you know that. I'm sure you don't give a fuck, but I never had a problem or issue with him. So hearing all of this was just surprising. So back to what I was saying, when it all comes to a head when Nikki said that her and Mo were having a conversation one day, and Mo was basically like chastising her about why do you keep going back to that group? You constantly talk about how much you hate it and X, Y, and Z, and this, I gotta stop saying that, and all this stuff. And Nikki said, wait, Mo, didn't you do the same thing a few years ago? And Mo went 0 to 1 billion and just lit Nikki up, blocked her, removed her from everything. And that's when Nikki's like, all right, sure. I'm paraphrasing that. Like I said, I asked Nicole to be here, but I think she's out right now. So whenever Nicole gets the chance to speak on these things, I'm sure she will. But it's just there's a lot of just like devious actions and just lying, just blatant, flat out lying, trying to like put together this patchwork quilt of lies over top of this entire situation. Like all the other stuff that we spoke about, I can understand like having a disagreement over a difference of perspective, but ultimately, like, no, like, what the fuck? This situation with Dumois and Diego said that he had his uncle was in the hospital, so he couldn't be here for it right now. But he gave me the screenshots and everything for it. But essentially, a situation developed where, and I think this is so ironic and so hypocritical because in Mo's video, you know, he talks about how creepy Nathan was and how, like, disgusted he was with his actions and, you know, you don't speak to girls like that and yada, yada, yada. Well, apparently in this situation with Diego, one of Diego's good friends that he's known for a very long time came to Diego and said, hey, Mo's being really fucking creepy in my DMs right now. Like, you know this guy, right? Like, can you do something about this? Mo was, let me see if I can grab these screenshots. Let me see if I can grab them right now. I'm going to read what Diego said, because I messaged Diego today, and I said, and again, Diego's giving me permission to say all of this and talk about all of this stuff. I said, Diego, would you mind sharing with me exactly what happened with Mo and your friend? I'm going to speak on things, and I'd like to be informed, you know, referring to this right now. And Diego said they were talking, and she gave him the old, you'll be a great guy for someone. I'm going to move this over here so I'm not looking over here. She said they were talking, and she gave him the old, you'll be a great guy for someone kind of thing. And he replied with some kind of, what would you do if I was there / slid my hand down your pants? thing, etc. And she expressed some discomfort with the situation, and then he pushed briefly, then backed off and apologized. She also messaged me asking to call her so that she'd have an excuse to hang up with Mo. They talked about it and hashed everything out since then, and it was never really that deep. I was just trying to bring attention to it at the time so nothing would get misinterpreted and come back to bite him later, whether with that situation or another one. So Diego's basically, like, his entire position in this is like, he's like, I'm looking out for my lady friend over here, but at the same time, I'm trying to look out for you, Mo, because if everyone finds out that you're just being this huge creep in girls' DMs, that's not going to go over very well. Diego posts these screenshots. So apparently what happens afterwards, I'm going to open these so that I can show them to you guys. So apparently what happens afterwards is Mo and Dunhua attempt like this two-pronged approach of speaking to Diego and essentially attempting to like get Diego to be hush-hush about things. Like, he doesn't want... Let me make sure these are in the right order. Hold on. Okay, these are in the order he sent them to me. So, apparently, Mo and Dunois started, like, talking to Diego separately in an attempt to keep all this, like, hush-hush, and, like, they don't want anyone to find out that Mo was being mega creep, whether he was drunk or not, whatever. He was being super mega creepy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Mo, I guess, eventually kind of sort of backs off. But Dunois, like, a week or two afterwards, like, still shows up and starts messaging Diego again in an attempt to, like, convince Diego that this person was lying on Mo. And all of this didn't actually happen. And Diego's like, dog, what? Like, I've known this chick forever. I believe her when she says that this guy is being creepy towards me. And Diego's like, I'm not trying to make it a thing. You know, I'm not trying to make it a thing. I'm not trying to expose Mo or, you know, like, make this a thing or anything. I'm just trying to look out for Mo. And, like, if anything, you know, give Mo the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, stop doing what you're doing. Cut it out. But this conversation with Diego and Dunois says, I don't know if this info is private or not, but I heard that Mo might have been a creep or something to some people. I just want to know who they are to make sure. I'm going to confront him later about it. Number one, what does Dunois have to do with any of that? That's my question. This is a conversation that happened between Diego and Mo. Diego says, oh yeah, I'll ask them to see if they're okay with me telling you. Dunois says, just want to make sure it's actually him. Diego says, oh, it's 100% trustable. Dunois says, is it like a Discord DM? Diego says how they told me or what he said to them. Dunois says, nah, I mean how they messaged him. Diego says it was in a voice call. She asked me to call her so she could fake an excuse to get out of the conversation because it was pretty bad. And then Dunois says, oh, that doesn't sound like Mo. He doesn't talk to a lot of girls. And Diego goes back to his original statement. He says, I'll let you know if they're okay with me telling you, but all I can say is I know 100% without a doubt it's trustable. Dunois says, okay, if it's who I think it is, then maybe I need to talk to Nexus about it. What does Nexus have to do with this? Diego says they gave me a line-by-line rundown of what happened, and it did sound like Mo. Dunois says all I heard was that he sounded like a creep and he was rude. Diego says, I don't have anything personal against him or anything. Exactly the opposite. I consider him a good friend. I wouldn't trust it if I didn't know without a shadow of a doubt. Trust me. Dunois says, yeah, but I talk to him like every day, so it seems odd considering what I do know about him and what Nexus knows about him. Diego says, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, my dude. You cannot believe if you want. Like, Diego's telling him, like, this happened. This is a thing. And Dunois is in this conversation, like, stonewalling Diego, attempting to convince Diego that this just isn't true. He said, nah, that's the thing, though. I don't want to believe it, but I would like to know. Diego says, I know Mo isn't this way inherently as a person. I know he's a sweet dude and tries to be respectful. I think he thought she was interested and went full on trying to seem confident or whatever. But if you could talk to him and get that through to him, that would probably save him some drama as he figures shit out. I'll for sure ask her if she's comfortable with either letting me tell you or talk to you by herself. Dunois says, all right, sounds good, but really, I'm afraid, I don't know, that's the typo, I think. He only talks to a couple girls, and I don't know if you even know them, which is blank and blank. Diego said she's going to talk to him herself. So this lady has taken upon herself to handle the situation on her own. So again, what does Dumois have to do with any of this? He says, okie doke, and then continues to message Diego asking who it's with blank person, right? Apparently that happened a long time ago, like when Mo was in the UK and he was drunk and he apologized the day after a couple times after that. I wouldn't consider that anything too bad. So the whole point in this is all of this lying and conniving actions and this and that behind the scenes in separate side chats and group chats and this and that. It's just, I'm so over and done with it all. You know, all I've done over the past few years is live my life and attempted to be a good person. And this is the point that I was going to speak about. I don't understand why, you know, I never stepped up and asked to be a leader of any kind. I never stepped up and said, this is Nappy's group. You know, we've had multiple conversations on Primetime about how it's perceived, how the stream is perceived, you know, when people don't stream the full 8 hours when I'm not there, or things like that. You know, this whole perception of Nappy's group was never something that I started. It's just, if I didn't do things, nobody would fucking do anything. All these projects that you guys have known and loved over the years, none of them would have happened if I hadn't stepped up and said, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's get this done. Do you guys want to do this? Nick was even tweeting about it, how he said how nobody really talks to each other unless Nappy's involved. So again, that goes back to my original statement of, you know, these people, you made these choices. You know, you chose to show up. You chose to not show up. You chose to be a part of. And you can't sit here and deflect blame and not want to be responsible for the consequences of your own actions. If you're unhappy with where your life is at right now, that's something that you need to fix. You don't sit here and blame it on me and block me and attempt to just run away with no sort of rebuttal. That's not my responsibility. I can't help it that you hung on every word and every decision that I made over the years. I made those decisions for me and my life. I can't speak on anything else. That's basically everything to this point. Whenever Nikki decides that she's comfortable enough to speak on things, then she will. But ultimately, this entire situation, like I said at the start, is just this gigantic, jumbled, fucked up mess that never needed to become entertainment for hundreds of thousands of people. To be honest, it would have never have gotten to this point at all if people would have just spoken up about how they truly felt. Period. One other thing I wanted to add about the Nathan situation, I forgot to mention earlier, because I was talking about people being responsible for their own actions and decisions. It's very funny that people like Mo and Luke and Nexus are so like anti-group and this and that and yada yada yada, and they're very vanilla about the whole situation with Nathan. When in reality, all the things that they're accusing us of and all the things that we're attempting to defend ourselves against, they were a part of it as well. They were all there. You know, and all those calls when we pulled Nathan aside and said, dude, stop doing this. Nexus and Mo were there. So again, like, I'm not going to be held accountable or any of that stuff for Nathan's actions. No, these people want to have this holier than thou position talking about X, Y, and Z and this and that. And I said X, Y, and Z again, when in reality, they were just as much at fault in all of these situations and all these conversations, everything. So I said my piece. I'm incredibly happy. I'm incredibly happy. So happy this is off my back. I don't give a fuck who knows about me being bisexual. I don't give a shit about that. I don't care. I'm sure in my own time I would have said something. I really don't appreciate the fact that that wasn't a choice that was given to me, but I'm sure they felt justified in doing what they did regardless. But yeah, that's basically it. That's basically everything. And like I said, I sat here, turned my stream on, and I spoke to you guys candidly. None of this is recorded. I'm not doing any of this shit. I call Sadie over here right now. Sadie, come here, baby. Come here, baby. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want me to do to prove that this is live and not pre-recorded. Cooking Corinth, Shadow Ryan, Firefly, Omega Fudge. You know, I can sit here and call people out in the chat right now. So I appreciate the fact that you guys came out and at least gave me the opportunity to speak on the situation. However you feel about things from here on out, you do what you need to do. I'm probably going to go outside. I'm going to get up and just step away from things for like the next week because this is incredibly exhausting. Mentally exhausting. Just everything about the situation. You know, things should have never gotten to this point. And they would have never gotten to this point if somebody would have just opened their mouth and spoke. Speak up for yourself. Anyways, I'm going to go take a shower and lay down and try and get some rest. Because I only slept for like 4 hours last night. And like I said, I'm sick. I'm just fucking exhausted. So I will catch you guys here soon. But until then, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want anything to do with these people. Nothing. I spoke my piece. I told everyone the truth about what happened. Like I said, there were half a dozen people that were involved in all these situations and can confirm what actually happened is what happened. So that's why I said there's perception, and I can understand, you know, having opposing opinions on something, and then there's the facts of what actually happened. So, aside from that, I'm going to go. I will catch you guys soon. Bye.